Hello, this is Rick, your friendly counselor from the Columbia Gorge Community College Small Business Development Center. And I'm here to talk to you today about the minimum wage increase that's going to be happening in Oregon. We've had quite a number of our clients talk to us about their concerns about this increase, and I'm going to talk about some strategies you can use to approach dealing with these increases. So let's start with the Columbia Gorge region. In 2016, minimum wage is currently at $9.25 per hour. The legislation reads that minimum wage needs to increase by $13.50 per hour by the year 2022. So I took the increase to $13.50 minus $9.25 and evenly distributed it year by year. So in 2017, minimum wage would go up to $9.96. In 2018, it would go up to $10.67. I also put in a little benefit calculator so you can see the impact based on your current benefit rate. You can change this to 15%, you can change this to 20%, but I find that 12% really works for most small businesses. 12% works for most small businesses, and that covers your Social Security, Medicare, your workers' comp, your paid sick leave, and also a little provision in there for unemployment insurance. So if we look at 2017 versus 2016, there's going to be a 7.7% increase in your wages. And as a small business development center counselor, there's really three strategies you can approach to deal with that increase in your payroll. You can increase your prices, you can increase your volume, or you can decrease your expenses. Well, this little matrix makes it really easy for you to look at how much you would have to increase your prices to make up that increase in payroll. So let's say that your labor is 90% of your sales, you would have to increase your prices by 6.9% to make the same amount of money. I know of very few business models in my years of experience counseling businesses where payroll is 90% of sales. In most cases, it's 50% or lower. In my particular case, I'm going to use a restaurant, and I do go all the way down to 10%, but I'm going to use a restaurant that has 30% labor as a percentage of sales. So that restaurant would have to increase their prices by 2.3% to deal with that impending minimum wage increase. And I'm going to show you an example using another spreadsheet right here. I have a restaurant that's doing $500,000 of sales in 2016. Their food costs are $150,000. Their labor costs are $150,000. Advertising costs are $12,000. Supply costs are $10,000. I look at these as being the most controllable expenses for a restaurant. Other expenses, I'm going to just group those all together at $85,000. And so this particular restaurant makes $93,000 in profit. So looking at 2017, if everything stayed the same except for that minimum wage increase, I would take this number, multiply it by that 7.7%, and they would make $11,550 less if they took no action. So I pointed out in that matrix that I suggested all you have to do is raise your prices by 2.3%. And sure enough, you can see that you make up $11,550 by doing that 2.3%. There's a slight rounding error, so let me do 2.31%. And then you're going to make the same amount of money as in 2016 by doing that price increase. And I did a little extra analysis with this particular restaurant so we could talk about approaching the two other strategies. Let's say this restaurant did 40,000 customers a year or had an average sale per customer of $12.50. So let's imagine a steak dinner. You have a small piece of steak, some potatoes, and some green beans on that plate. And they're selling that for $12.50. And the cost of that steak, mashed potatoes, and green beans is $3.75 per plate. So that's 30% of this. They have 40,000 customers. They decide to increase their prices by 2.31%. Well, that would change that $12.50 entree to $12.79. And then you, as a small business development center counselor, would talk to your client. Would you lose any of your customers if you raised your prices from $12.50 to $12.79? And we can run some different scenarios by saying, okay, I'm assuming that we might lose 2% of our customers. Well, then we now have to make up $7,200.31 some other way. But let's go back and look at the three different strategies. Again, you can raise your prices, but you might say, I just did a price increase last year. I don't want to do another price increase this year. I want to make it up with volume. So let's make an assumption that you think you can do 10% more customers this year than last year. Well, that right there would make you $23,450 more. If your sales have consistently been growing by 10% a year, you would gain 4,000 customers, and you would not have to worry about that minimum wage increase. Or you can even take it a step further and say, I'm going to raise my prices, and maybe instead of growing 10% because I've raised my prices, I'll only grow 5%. You're still going to make 18,000 more than the previous year. But let's zero out the price increase again. And let's say that you don't want to do a price increase and you're concerned about the volume increase. You feel that in your marketplace they're going to be raising prices everywhere, and you're going to do everything you can to keep your prices the same and keep those 40,000 customers. Well, your next option is to decrease expenses. So let's look at the top 4 controllable expense categories. That's your food costs, your labor costs, your advertising costs, and your supply costs. Now, the first thing I'll point out to this client, if I was their counselor, is that you need to make up $11,550. Between your advertising and supplies, we're only at $22,000. You would have to cut those in half. And chances are you haven't been that inefficient with your advertising or your supplies where you can cut those in half. So I would say, please consider staying away from trying to cut these 2 areas. Let's try working on these higher expense areas like food costs. Some of you might say, well, how do I cut my food costs? Well, I got a quick little answer here, and that's adjust your portion size. Let's say that between your steak, your mashed potatoes, and green beans, you weigh out that plate and you see that that's 14 ounces. Maybe you cut 1 ounce off of that and you knock it down to a 13-ounce portion. You notice that, when the dishwashers are cleaning up at the end of the night, they're always giving or scraping some food into the garbage or giving to-go containers. So let's cut that portion down to 13 ounces. Well, that right there will make up $10,000 of that 11,000. So now we just need to make up a little bit more. So the other thing you can do with your labor costs is, no, you don't have to fire employees. Maybe just adjust your scheduling. Let's look at a typical restaurant at dinner. They might schedule a server to work from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Maybe tell that server to come in at 5:15 instead of 5 o'clock or 5:30. And you look at your total schedule and you see that you're scheduling 240 hours a week. So maybe you figure you can shave your hours by 10 hours by just adjusting everybody's schedule by 15 minutes or a half hour. Well, by doing that, you would save some money. And yes, your payroll would still be higher because the minimum wage increased. And again, we raised everybody's wages by 7.7%, not just the minimum wage people. But by raising those wages and cutting those hours a little bit, and that's only a 4.2% cut in those hours, and that's only 10 hours a week, you've cut down that increase from, again, let me show you. It was $11,550 before. Now it only goes up by $4,818. And by changing that portion size, you're making $5,800 more than the previous year. Again, there's no easy answers. My suggestion is work with your small business development center counselor, go over some options, run some different scenarios. Remember that every decision may have a consequence. Work with your SBDC counselor and see what options you have and take the best course of action. We look forward to working with you in the future. Give your local SBDC counselor a call.